So now I am open for questions and your comments, etc. And then before you go, I'll have a couple of links. If you would like, you can get access to some resources. So question would be one at a time. And if Ritu can monitor it, if we can raise your hand and do it one at a time.
Yes. So let's quickly see who's here. I think Kaushik raised his hand. Kaushik, would you like to speak? Kaushik, am I audible? No, okay, any questions?
Ashish, I just wanted to ask one question. Hello.
Yeah, Ashish, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Tushar. Tushar, I really like the approach. The three segment that you shared. Appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. But because I personally feel that these are good approaches while doing work within an organization and probably in the personal space as well. But it's primarily more towards top-down approach when the people can thanks, appreciate our coach. But how will it move from bottom to top when you are giving feedback? Again coming back to I believe what the gentleman that asked going back again towards the top, interacting with the stakeholders, the leadership team. You really can't appreciate, you really can't coach, and you really can't evaluate, while giving feedback to them.
Right. Could you give me 1 second? I'll turn the curtain off. The sun is coming on my face. Yeah.
Right.
It's a similar question which Nishant asked that, top to bottom is fine, but from bottom to top, when you're giving the feedback, it's not taken up.
Right, because primarily, Ritu, yeah, you were right. Because primarily, it's been times and ages that we have been working on sandwich feedback, the technique that sandwich feedback moves.
Yeah.
But, treating it or segmenting it with respect to, appreciation, merely appreciation or coaching and an evaluation, a person who has certain commands in hand, I'm sure will take it on a good direction. But a senior manager or a senior management team taking the feedback from a junior employee or subordinate on these grounds would be, I think, probably identity trigger that what Tushar has shared gonna be a thing that will come up while the feedback
Yeah, and Tusharji, once we answer Ashish's question, I would request again we go back to Jagdeep's question. Jagdeep asked in the starting, so we may want to refer back to that.
Okay, so one thing at a time.
Yeah.
A boss who doesn't want to change, you can't do anything. I wish I knew how to bell the cat. However, you can role model it yourself. Can you appreciate your boss? Yes, no? Obviously, for honest things with specific. So appreciation would be fine. Yeah. Can you coach your boss? Yes. In a way where you can say, sir, is it okay if I make a suggestion or two that I have? Maybe you may agree with it, you may not agree with it. Yeah. So that is the coaching part where you are trying to improve. And in evaluation, if there are proper processes, 360 or HR is doing it, then it would be fine. Otherwise, it really depends on the person. If the person is not ready to receive feedback, it's very difficult to give him or her feedback. But you can always attempt by asking questions and asking permission.
Yes.
Is it okay if I make a comment? Is it okay if I share my view on this? Is it okay if I do this? So if you can gauge that, is he in the right mood? Is she in the right mood to accept feedback? Then you can discuss.
So if I may add to this, Tusharji, I think the choice of words is very important here.
Correct.
One, right? That's, is it a good idea? May I suggest? Can I share?
Asking for permission and then using those kinds of permission words will help. Sir, I think that this may improve this a little bit. May I share an idea?
Timings is also very important. At times, the situation is not like that you would like or other person would like to take the feedback. The very same person, who otherwise is very good in taking feedbacks. But at times, the temperament is not like that. Then you need to evaluate before giving the feedback. That is also very, very important.
I agree completely. Just like children are really good at reading the moods of mom and dad, as employees, we are also pretty good at reading the boss's
Exactly.
mood. Aaj boss ko chhedna mat, kuch gadbad hai.
This is, I recall this, Tusharji, long ago, 15 years ago. Whenever I prefer to go for reviews and meetings early morning with my CEO, I used to talk to him. And the moment, because I felt कि सुबह सुबह जो हो जाए ना वो it's over. Otherwise you need to carry it till 7 o'clock in the evening. You are in stress, so it's better to complete it early morning. And my CEO was in a habit that if you add some value early morning, the whole day he will take your name and say, this I learned from Ritu, or this I learned from this person. And as soon as I used to reach back my workstation, people would used to ask, आज boss का mood कैसा है यार, कल छुट्टी के लिए पूछना है.
Correct. Just like the weather, before you go out, you check the weather. Before I dare go into the kitchen when my wife is busy and ready to go to work, I check the weather first and then I enter the kitchen. So we all learn how to manage ourselves. Yeah.
So seeking permission is what I understand what you said, seeking permission, choice of words. And it also depends on the temperament, as Jagdeep just pointed out, of the person. And many a times I feel that people, leaders are not ready to accept the, feedback, even they want to know about it, because sometimes they feel insecure that my subordinate is much more capable than me. So, they sometimes feel insecure. That's why they also don't want to take feedback from them.
Correct. So I have seen this again and again and again in the leaders when we start our coaching process. They are so concerned about adding this person or that person or seeking feedback from him or her. And by the end of third or fourth month, they are asking us, hey, I have another peer. Can I add him? Because they see the value in feedback. Yeah. If we can just get over our concern that we are not perfect and we can improve and we can put our ego aside, it's a lovely, lovely tool, and it's the only tool with which you can improve.
Right.
So Jagdeep, what question was this? I'm sorry. I'm getting to the age where more brain cells are dying daily than our new ones are being created. So I forgot your question.
So Jagdeep had asked initially, Jagdeep, correct me if I'm wrong and you can add to it, that initially he said that sometimes when you were talking about that, people are taught how to give feedback.
Correct.
Right? And
Yeah,
he
correct.
That when leaders, they are even, despite being taught, they don't use it the way it should have been used. So I would want to add, is it because of the positional power or the ego traps they have that they don't use it despite knowing that first you appreciate it's the sandwich or the burger technique that we use. Many a times leaders don't use that and they're very direct. Jagdeep, that is what your question was?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Okay. So there could be 2 or 3 things, and I can only guess. One is, of course, could be ego. Another is, this is what we see in training. So what is the biggest myth or fallacy about training? It is that if I know it, I will do it. And I'll start with me. I am now middle-aged and I have a little bit of a middle. It's not too bad. That I need to lose. They say that when you get middle-aged, you only grow in the middle. You can't grow vertically anymore. So I, being in training field, I know everything I need to know about losing this middle. How many minutes of aerobics, what heart rate, how many times a day, what strength conditioning, what aerobics, everything I know. My problem is not knowing, my problem is doing it. So my wife, she is wiser and smarter than me. So she tells me that, why don't you just hire a personal trainer? So do I hire a personal trainer because I don't know how to exercise? Not really. I hire a personal trainer for the accountability. So in training, one of the biggest fallacy, one of the biggest myths is that when the leader knows it, he will do it. Unfortunately, changing habits, changing our default behavior requires consistent follow-up and on-job application. And so that is one reason they might not be doing it. So I might go to a training program, and let's raise our hands and be honest. How many training programs we have got and how much of that we have actually applied on job? And then we expect the other parties, our trainees, to do that. So human beings just don't work that way. So that could be one reason. And other reasons could be ego or relationship triggers or some of the other things. So that's my 2 cents worth. I hope I helped answer that question.
Any other question? Anybody?
Yeah, Ritu ma'am, Tushar sir, Nishant here. I'm still wondering. Still trying to figure out why is that the leaders would operate from from this I would say positional power or the positional ego, and
Mhm.
how as how can we probably one thing that we talked about a while ago was seeking permission, but then how should we tackle such people who have positional power, who have the power ego, if I say, and they would not want to listen, because in today's time a lot of our work as trainers is about managing the leadership. It can be at unit level, or it can be at a central level, and these people have a lot of ego or power, power ego, as I would call it, or positional power. So because of that, they generally don't take what we suggest them as trainers, because I believe we are linked to the ground. We have more visibility of what is actually happening at the ground, and then we go ahead, and when we give the feedback, these people are not ready to take the feedback. They might just hear it, but they don't listen to it. So if you can you can help us understand this part, it will be really great.
Right. So while I understand your frustration, and please don't think in terms of that I'm brushing off your question, but I will just tell you one old proverb that you may have heard. No, one man can lead the horse to the water, but 10 cannot make the horse drink if the horse doesn't want to drink. So in our coaching philosophy, this is what we say: if the leader gets better, it is not because of me, it is not because of the coach, but it is because I was able to show him the benefit of him improving. No? So to answer your question, if the leader doesn't want to change, we can't. We can uh, recommend things like continuous feedback through 360, formal or informal, performance conversations that are both ways, conversations that are done in the presence of HR representative. So progressive companies do that all the time. My boss gives feedback on me and I give feedback on my boss to the HR also. And now what happens is, if one person says, so here is another problem. So if one person says you are a horse, ignore him. If two people say you are a horse, you can say that they are, conniving together. But if 7 people say that you are a horse, get a saddle and start neighing, like a horse. So, so
Right.
uh, when 1 or 2 people say something, they could be biased. The beauty of 360-degree feedback is you can tell all the things you don't want to tell people to their face, right? So you can say that because the anonymity is protected. And if one person is saying something, you can ignore it. But 7 out of 10 people are saying that I get angry and upset and I am unapproachable. I better listen then. So that's why um, another proverb in not proverb but a little funny quote. हम कहते हैं कि गधे को गधा कहने के लिए अंदर का आदमी नहीं कह सकता है, उसके लिए कंसल्टेंट को बुलाना पड़ता है.
That's right.
Very true. Yeah.
So
So yeah, it is
that
more
was
of the
one
will
one.
part. That's what you're trying to say, sir. That we need to either show him what's in it for him,
Correct.
if he changes, or if he's not ready to even look at the other side of the of the picture, then it's probably go with the
Yeah,
flow,
go with the flow. You
right?
can't, right? So Serenity Prayer says that give me strength to change the things I can, give me courage to accept the things I can't change, and give me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So I'll raise my hand. I've been trying to change some of my habits of my wife, some of the habits of my wife, my wife's habits. We've been married now 27 years, unsuccessfully. So how smart it is of me to make her do certain things certain way. And I'm sure she will agree that some of my annoying habits, she's trying to change it. So what is the value in that? Is it not a waste of time? Someone who doesn't want to change?
Right. Thank you, sir.
Just to add in, Nishant, very shortly we'll be coming up with this session called Connection, which is an extension of feedback, and we will be talking about Marshall Rosenberg model there, and we shall send the invite, and we may invite Tusharji again to add more value to that.
That will be great, ma'am. Thanks.
Yeah. So, any other question? Anybody?
Ritu, can I come in?
Yes, Iba.
Tushar, I just want to understand one thing. While interviewing one of my candidates in my last organization, he was for the position of a team leader. So, he said that this sandwich feedback plays a really important role while, giving feedback to the customer care employees.
Mm-hmm.
So, you are saying that we need to segregate appreciation, coaching, and evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've come across a lot of people while interviewing, especially for the TL role, where they say that this sandwich feedback proves really helps, especially in this customer care department. So what
Right.
do you have to say on that?
Right. So there's this quote from Daniel Pink, the guy who wrote a fantastic book on motivation.
Okay.
He says that what science tells us and what management practices are, there is a huge gap. We still believe in command and control. So without knowing better, people are doing what they have been doing for years. And it may work sometimes, it may not work sometimes. So we kind of joke that an occasional good game of golf makes me think I am a good golfer. So once or twice, if something works, I might think that, hey, this is the way to do it. But if you do it this way, it will be at least 10 times better.
10 times more fruitful as per you.
Yeah, more effective. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any more questions before we close the session?
Yeah, Ritu, Ashish this side. One more question. Tushar, though receiving feedback is not in our hand, but the people, especially when we are doing, on a senior profile, when we are interacting with teams, stakeholders, so we generally receive feedback. But when is a good time to, do we actually, ask people to, when we wanted to give feedback to them, should we ask time, or we should schedule formally a feedback session with them, and how should we proceed with it?
Right. So are you talking about giving feedback or receiving?
Yes, giving feedback. Receiving feedback is which is not in our hands. Most of the time it's free of cost and people tend to give feedback.
Not really, because not all feedback is helpful and not all feedback is. So let's just take a silly example. If I go to someone who is a friend and say, give me feedback. So he's wondering whether I want feedback on my new glasses, or whether I feedback on how my pants fit me, or whether he wants a feedback on whatever. So feedback has to be exactly specific. And so this is what I'm trying to improve. So I'm trying to improve my painting. I'm trying to improve my report writing. Can you give me one or two suggestions or feedback that I can improve on it? So that is how the conversation should go. Please give me feedback. So other person wonders what the heck kind of feedback he wants.
No, this is on the receiving end. But when should we initiate, the giving feedback to the other person? Probably
only when the other person is ready.
No.
So should we take a time slot or a formal send a meeting invitation, or just we should go ahead and give a feedback?
So who did you have this in mind? Like, is it your boss? Is it a colleague? Is it a client?
Like I had been with a skip level to a CEO. My reporting has been a skip level to a CEO. So I have my subordinates, I have my seniors in place.
Yeah, but who did you have in mind when you were asking this question?
Majorly subordinates.
Okay. So you can always have, when you do have review meetings, right? Progress meetings, progress report meetings, those kinds of meetings. And you can start with yourself. So this is just an idea. Doesn't mean you have to do it this way. And you can start as that, this is what I have come across in feedback. And I would like some candid feedback on X. So not just general feedback. So is there, so two parts. Just feedback is past. Feed forward is future. So I can ask that when did I wrong you? And it creates defensive mechanisms and so on and so forth. So you can simply say that I am trying to become a better manager. What should I, in training parlance, we say start doing, stop doing, do more or do less. Correct? I want to become a better manager. What should I start doing? Stop doing, do more, do less. And just be quiet and ask, listen, thank. But when you do this for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm telling you, I've seen this again and again. The other people will also start asking because you have done the role modeling yourself. Sir, I also want to improve. What do you think I should do? But who goes first? You or the others? And this is the key difference. So if you wanted to start a culture within your circle of influence, subordinates, peers, routinely ask feedback at every meeting.
But in some sections of society or other organization, people say if somebody has to give feedback, you really don't need to ask. The people will automatically come and like give you the feedback. If
So
you're asking a feedback, that means that you are conscious of something that you have in your mind.
No,
and,
I disagree. Do we ask feedback from consumers? Are you asking feedback from
Yes, we
consumers
do
because your product is
yeah.
bad? Or is it because you want to keep improving your product to be even better? No. So we intuitively understand that with consumer products, but we as a product, we don't understand that.
Okay. But we do ask feedback from the consumers as well.
No, there nobody has problem. I haven't found any company who doesn't ask feedback from customers. No. Do they ask feedback from subordinates? That is another story altogether. And if everyone did that, I would be definitely out of business.
Right. Right. And what about when we are what should be the the way you have shared this? It's good. Asking feedback, the way we should go about and asking feedback to the spotted, and what should be the thought and the process while we do the same thing from our stakeholders or the management.
Yeah. So you can say you are trying to do feedback. The specific is better. Instead of saying give feedback for me, you can say that, hey, I'm trying to become a better listener. What do you think I should do? I'm trying to become a better report writer. What do you think I should do or not do? Start, stop that. And then write down their suggestions and don't overpromise. What you say is, hey, I'm just collecting suggestions and so it's difficult to change behaviors. I'm going to implement 1 or 2 this month or this quarter, and then I'm going to take others because habit changing or behavior change takes time. So don't raise expectations thinking that every suggestion would be implemented.
Got it. Thanks, Tushar.
So Tusharji, it means it's more of being a role model.
Absolutely.
And one thing I learned from my CEO when I was working with him, directly reporting to him, was that after every session, so he and I used to lead some behavioral workshops together. After every 15 minutes when he used to start, so with a sign language, he used to ask, am I going good? And every break he used to come to me and he used to ask me, is it okay or should I change the flow or should I say something else? And he was ready to accept the feedback at that time. And over a period of time, we realized that it is so important to ask for a feedback that despite being a CEO, he doesn't hesitate to ask for a feedback. And that's how he role modeled. And in his team, everybody started doing that.
Right. So I can quote another quote. Leadership is example. Everything else is nonsense. You can only lead by example. You are always leading by example, whether you realize it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you believe it or not. Monkey see, monkey do. That's what human beings are. So when you start doing it yourself with your team, eventually people will start mirroring it. but there is a time lag and there is this discomfort in between to be ready to hear all the things they are saying behind your back, but now they will be saying in your face. So are we ready for that? Or we prefer that in our face they say, sir, ma'am, you are great, but behind our back they are saying all kinds of things. So I see it again and again. Like I said, by the third or fourth month of coaching, people, we rock and roll. Now they are on board. Now they understand the value of feedback. Now everyone around them understands that. Now their subordinates are improving also. So it's a cascading and a multiplier effect.
Yes, true. Yeah, thank you. Any other question? Anybody wants to say something, or maybe any question or any new learning that came out today?
So this is what scares me when I ask people that did you learn anything today? And so that Hindi picture dialogue is there. Itna sannata kyun hai bhai? So it's okay. You can always give feedback. I believe I have my email. It's info@newageleadership.com. And you can send me an email requesting the PPT. We'll be happy to send it to you. And visit
I would appreciate if you could just type in the chat box your email ID, and also
absolutely.
Later on, I will share it again.
Okay. Chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm hoping I typed it correct. Yeah, no spelling mistakes. Good.
Yeah.
So Ritu, thank you so much. Are we winding up, or are there any more questions? I assume.
Questions or anything you want to say, share, how you're feeling right now after attending this session, anything, it's open.